Please welcome co-chairman of Enterprise Connect and lead blogger of No Jitter, Eric Kraft.
Thanks. Welcome back. Hope everybody had a good lunch. We're going to continue, first of all, with our Innovation Showcase. We had two of our Innovation Showcase winners this morning, and we're going to do the other two this afternoon, and then we're going to go into our summit on mobility. So I'm just going to go right to it and introduce the chairperson of our Innovation Showcase effort, Dave Michaels from Verge One Consulting.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Dave.
So we mentioned earlier this morning, we had the 4 companies. I talked about evaluating them from an innovation perspective and how slippery that is. I wanted to talk about some other criteria that we use in selecting the 4 companies that we have. Besides innovation, the next criteria is enterprise focus. And so we're looking for companies that have a solution that meets an enterprise need. And the way we check that primarily is by they have to provide a reference that they already have an enterprise customer. And then we also, the third criteria is about a communications fit. And so, for example, maybe an app that does fleet management is enterprise and innovative, but doesn't meet the communications fit. And so those are the 3 criteria we use. And I mentioned earlier we had 20 companies that applied. We got it down to 4 with much debate. And they're all exhibiting in the exhibit hall and booth 1128, so be sure to visit them there as well. So with that, I would like to introduce our next company. It's called Uber Conference, and the presenter today is Craig Walker, who is no stranger to telecom startups. Craig.
Thanks, Ed. And thanks, Enterprise Connect, for letting Uber Conference be here. As Dave mentioned, I'm Craig Walker, CEO of FireSpotter Labs, we're the makers of Uber Conference. My team and I used to run the Google Voice product from an engineering and product perspective. We're a San Francisco-based startup. We're funded by Google Ventures and Andreessen Horowitz. And we wanted to build Uber Conference to really solve the problem of crappy conference calls. And I think most people are familiar with the pain points of today's conference solutions, but this is one of my particular pet peeves.
If we get all of the deliveries done by the 1st, that's it. Yeah, who do we got here?
Hi guys, Jennifer from Legal.
This is Phil from Marketing.
Adrian from Publicity.
Nikki from Marketing.
Megan from Legal.
Well, hey guys, it's Matthew from Marketing. And Richard. Just can't wait to talk about business.
Hi, so basically what we were just talking about is the delivery date. If we can get everything done by the 1st. Yeah, who is this?
This is William, your intern.
It's Phil from Marketing.
And that happens all the time. The first 10 minutes of virtually every conference call is spent with introductions and interruptions, just trying to get started on the call. So with Uber Conference, we really wanted to try and do a bunch of different things to make it better. One, we want to make it easy to get on the call. So if you dial into an Uber Conference from any of the phone numbers that are on your account, we're going to authenticate you based on caller ID, so you won't have to enter a PIN, which is great for those times when you're driving and trying to avoid a crash while going back and forth between your calendar and your phone app. Secondly, we want to show you who is actually on the call. So rather than going around and trying to hear and listen to beeps, we give you a visual display from any browser or our mobile apps to see who is on the call. And you can see everyone who's invited. They're all grayed out until they join. And when they join, they appear in color. So you know who's there. So you never have to ask, who was it who just joined? Who was it who just left? You can actually tell. In addition to that, we also want to let you know who's speaking at any time. There's nothing more frustrating than finally getting on a call and not knowing if it's the CEO or the intern who just said something. So if you look at the top of the screen, we always put the active speaker in that podium position, and that'll change as everyone else speaks. So now that you're on the call and you know who's speaking, we also wanted to let you know more about the people you're talking to. A lot of times you get on conference calls and there's a bunch of people from another company, but you don't know if they're, where they live in the organization. You don't know what their backgrounds are. So if you just click on the face of any of the participants here, we will bring up their LinkedIn profile. We'll show you their most recent tweets. We'll show you other social information or updates from Facebook and from Google+, so you can actually have a more intelligent conversation knowing who you're talking to. In addition to that, we wanted to give the organizer a bunch of powerful tools to control the conference. So most conference call systems do have features like being able to record a call, being able to mute a call. The problem is no one knows how to use them because you have to memorize some ridiculous code and enter it through your keyboard or through your phone, like *75 to mute or *63 to record. So with Uber Conference, you just click the blue U next to each participant, and up comes a bunch of features or controls. I can hang up on a guy, I can mute a guy, I can even put on earmuffs on a person so they can't hear what we're saying if you ever need a side conversation. I can also click down below to record a call, or I can even add a participant on the fly, and Uber Conference will dial out to join them into the conference. We partnered with Evernote and with Box on a screen sharing application, or not screen sharing, document sharing application, so any documents can be shared by any participant. And we also have a great call summary that shows at the end to tell you who was on the call, who spoke the most, who spoke the least, and to give you links to download any of the documents that were shared. We have mobile apps as well, and I'm completely out of time, so thank you very much, and please come by the booth.
Great. Thank you, Greg. Conferencing isn't exactly new and sexy. Why conferencing? Is this something that you're seeing growing, or what?
Yeah, so it's amazing that with more and more mobile workers and more collaboration from different points, conferencing on a pure minute basis is going up quite a bit year over year. The amazing thing is there's been no innovation. Like literally, I graduated from law school in '95. The conference call I got in then compared to the conference call I got on today is exactly the same thing. Dial a number, enter a PIN, listen to a bunch of beeps, and hear a bunch of faceless voices.
Tell us about your models. It's a freemium model. What's free and what do you pay for?
Yeah, so for individual accounts, we have a free product which gets you a geographic number, not of your choosing. It allows you to have a conference up to 20 people. It allows you to do virtually everything you can in here, although there's some important things. On the paid version, you can pick a local number or a toll-free number. You can have conferences start by having the system dial out to originate the calls, and you can have much larger participants. And it removes all the this free conference call provided by Uber Conference branding as well. And
tell us a little about security. How do you manage security, or do you?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about conference calls, the traditional way is, let's say when I started Google 2007, they gave us a dial-in number, a participant PIN, and an organizer PIN. Once someone was ever on my conference call, they could just dial in every hour on the hour to see what was going on. I'd have no way to control it. So with Uber Conference, first, you get to see everybody who's there. So there's no way to lurk or to hide in a conference room, and you can manage it and kick people out and expel them. And number two, we even have a setting where you can set it to private. So only people who are specifically invited and dial in, if they dial in because we recognize their number or they enter the specific PIN, we'll let them in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
You can learn more about Uber Conference in booth 1128 downstairs. Now, of all the companies that we evaluated, they submit an application, they describe themselves, they have to answer some questions. Some of them are a little harder to get than others. A lot of them, it's a concept we're familiar with, and it's a new twist or something on that concept. This company took a little longer to understand, so pay attention to this one. It's a very interesting app, but it's not quite like anything that you may know. So with that, I'd like to introduce Babak. With the Scoop application.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Babak Sadari, CEO, co-founder at Scoop App. All of us need inspiration to innovate, and my aha moment came in 2004 in a past career. We were trying to get a robotic vision system demonstration working for Ford Motor Company. Nothing's working. It's 3 a.m. in Detroit. Finally, one of the guys says, I'm going to recalibrate this whole thing. I'm going to take a picture of every step and send it over to Vancouver. And sure enough, looking at the pictures 50 minutes later, we spot the problem right away. The white balance switch on the back of the camera is set to the wrong position. A simple switch that basically almost costs $1 million contract. Now, this story had a happy ending, but what it drove home for me was the power of visual context and how it can be your biggest ally in solving problems. Today, we can use our phones to take pictures and video and send them to anyone, but the trick is, how do we get this to be an integral part of everyday business processes within the enterprise? Now, enterprises are globalizing, workforces are decentralizing, so we're going to have more field issues, not less. And we are going to need remote skills to solve these issues oftentimes. So what we really need is a nimble, scalable process and tool that would allow our people to capture issues right there on the field and transport that issue to subject matter experts, managers, and others so they can work together to resolve these quickly. This is why we developed Scoop. So let me show you how it works. Imagine you're in the field, you come across an issue, or maybe something you want to discuss with the rest of your team. You fire up your Scoop app quickly, and you create a new Scoop. You've just launched a mobile cloud-based workspace dedicated to that specific issue. Next, you go ahead and add pictures and video, and you start to tell the story of what this issue is using voice and text comments. As you can see on the right, you can even record an on-screen markup where you literally touch and point out specific details and nuances as you speak. Of course, you want to solve this, so you go ahead and invite the people that you think can help you solve the issue. They get alerts, and you all start to communicate together. All the while, everybody can see exactly what you're seeing there on the ground, which is very important. As a manager sitting in the HQ, you can actually use dashboards to track issues by group and by project. You can look at analytics that tell you how quickly issues are getting resolved and what team activity is going on. You can export this data easily to other formats or access it from within other enterprise applications using a simple API call. Of course, this kind of application can be applied to a broad range of field-based processes, and I've listed some of them here. But we are all in different businesses, and perhaps one thing we are all responsible for is the safety of our workers. And this is a process today that's completely broken, as you can see by these numbers. And this is just not acceptable. We need to solve it, but we need to give people the right tools to get involved, get engaged in safety, because that is the solution to safety. You can imagine that using a tool such as Scoop, we can prevent a lot of accidents and tragedies by simply giving a tool to everyone they can use to quickly record safety issues, bring them to the attention of the right people, and resolve them. And as a matter of fact, safety could be a great first application to start with. Lastly, I want to say that Scoop's been available commercially since 2012, third quarter. We have our first major enterprise customer up and running since then. They've just placed repeat orders with us. We have standard monthly plans starting as $34 per user per month, and we have a growing list of enterprise customers. I'd like to invite all of you to come visit us at the booth later and have a more detailed discussion.
Great, thank you. So the idea, of course, is a mobile-first collaboration app. And so let me ask you, the first is there a desktop component?
Excellent question. As a matter of fact, Scoop is available and supports both iOS and Android using native mobile apps. But the idea was to let people in the field quickly capture issues and then transform that information immediately to the cloud so people in the back office headquarters can access that using a web application. And you can also use the same web application to configure your organization in terms of business units, projects, different kinds of settings, custom fields, tagging, and those kinds of things as well.
Can you give us an idea of what's next in an application like this? What's the roadmap look like?
Yeah, one of the things we are finding is that a variety of field-based scenarios are actually better suited to asynchronous communication, where I can create a Scoop and invite people, and we can use our own time to collaborate, because we can time shift. We don't need to be on the two ends of the line at the same time. But there are some scenarios that call for a live session, so we are working to add that capability into Scoop as well.
And if somebody wanted to start scooping, how does somebody begin?
Oh, I mean, we are here on the show floor. Come visit us. We'll give you a live demo. Otherwise, we can do an online demo for you. And then once we've done that, we can set you up with your own Sandbox account. You can populate your own data and actually get a feel for it. OK. And the Scoop name? Oh, the Scoop name just came from the fact that we wanted to take the whole story of an issue, the whole scoop of an issue, and beam that, to use a Star Trek term, to the rest of the team so they can exactly see what we are seeing on the ground.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, I just want to emphasize, I think I said it earlier, I don't think I said it this session, we select 4 companies. We don't rank the 4, so all 4 are the Innovation Showcase, and you can see them all in booth 1128. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. All right, thanks a lot, Dave, and thanks to our innovators. And again, please do go see them on the show floor. It's great stuff. Innovation is really happening at the show this year. You're going to be amazed. This is the Mobile UC Summit. Obviously, mobility is a huge topic and huge concern for everybody. We've got a very short time to cover it, so I'm going to get right into it by starting to introduce our panel. In case you missed the beginning, again, my name's Eric Kraft. I'm the conference co-chair. I'm the editor of our No Jitter content site, where you can see all this stuff covered throughout the year. I'll start by introducing our panelists. I'm going to be co-moderating it with Michael Finneran, but Michael's the last person we'll bring out. And let me start by, if we can get the names of our presenters on the slides. We're going to start with Jeff Tongle from AirWatch. Okay. Thanks a lot, Jeff. It's right here, actually. Okay. And next we've got John Cash from BlackBerry. Thanks, John.
Here.
Scott Johnson from Microsoft.
Eric.
Thanks, Scott. David Lowe from Samsung. Thanks, David. Joe Martin from Sprint. Thanks, Joe. Chris Kemmerer from Verizon. Thanks, Chris. And now, the guy you definitely need to be listening to and following and reading, Michael Finneran, DBR and Associates. All right. Well, thanks very much, everyone. The fact that this is such a big panel and diverse is certainly a testament to all the activity we're seeing in mobility. And I'm going to start out questioning, then turn over to Michael. And what I want to kind of get from you guys is just a basic question. We've been talking about mobility and UC for a while, specifically, whether it's do we put UC clients on our smartphones? Do we integrate on the back end? How do we integrate, the MDM or other systems we may have for managing mobility? Our mobile users. How do we integrate that with our IP PBXs and next-gen systems and SBCs and all those things? So I want to get a kind of a sense from each of you. Where are we at? Are we seeing any sort of convergence of mobility and UC, or is this something that enterprises are still struggling to really affect in some way? I'll just go down the line here.
Sure. So hey, I'm Jeff Tongle with AirWatch. So I think absolutely. I know internally we're using UC quite a bit in order to simplify communications. What MDM, I think, brings to the table is facilitating and automating that process of getting all those necessary components and security features down to the mobile device itself on behalf of the end user, whether it's VPN settings, Wi-Fi settings, the client itself, in order to enable those features. All of those things have to come together for UC to be effective from a mobility perspective. And depending on how savvy your end user is, it can be complicated to get that to work. So AirWatch does a great job with basically upon enrolling that device, all of those features are instantly enabled, regardless of how savvy that end user is.
So it's about integrating on the back end.
That's right.
Okay, John?
Sure. So, obviously BlackBerry has been involved in many different facets of the unified communication space, and we've worked with a lot of the core UC providers like Cisco and Microsoft and IBM and Avaya and a few others that are all here. We've provided PBX connectivity. We've provided connectivity to SharePoint for our devices, and all of those things are things that we're still doing. And by the way, we're seeing a ton of uptake in our space. So BlackBerry BlackBerry MVS, as an example, is definitely something that continues to gain traction. And as we move towards, well, actually have moved into the launch of BlackBerry 10 devices and move towards it here in the US, we're very excited that we'll be continuing those types of capabilities and really even, maybe, I think, redefining what a unified communications experience looks like on a mobile device. And you guys will all get a chance to see that at our booth, but when you look at BlackBerry 10 through the hub concept, it essentially becomes the unified place where all of your communication happens, regardless of what that happens to be. So that's what we're doing. We see a ton of opportunity. Also, I would say that with BES 10, we've also now incorporated management capabilities into our platform such that we can be an integrator of those solutions on other devices as well. So we're very excited about that.
Scott?
So it's a really exciting time because something that all of us share is that the end users tell us what they want and what they don't want.
Or sometimes they don't tell us.
And sometimes they do. Yeah, exactly. But the exciting thing about that in the enterprise deployment teams that I lead, enterprise customer engineering for Link and Skype together, we have gotten a very loud voice. 5 years ago, it was a secondary thought. It'd be great if this stuff could be more mobile. And today, it's actually the opposite of that. And you'll see it in our client work. As we partner with many of the folks on this stage, it's a requirement to have Android look like Android, to have Windows Mobile feel like that Windows Mobile experience you get on Windows 8, and to have the iOS experience and the controls where you expect them. So they've been very clear with us, our users. In the enterprise space specifically, that's actually driving deployment of the back end to get upgraded to the latest capabilities for video, for voice, for application sharing. And we see actually a tremendous surge there. So I would say it's quite a shift, but it's always about, are we making sure we're mapping to what users want and making sure that the enterprise environment can support and sustain that.
David?
Dave Lowe with Samsung. And I've been involved in UC in a number of different ways for more years than I probably care to mention. But from a mobility standpoint, what I see is it's really about first establishing mobility firmly in the enterprise space. And from a Samsung perspective, 2011, 2012 were really about establishing Samsung and Android as a credible enterprise solution. And Samsung's been able to do that through introducing Samsung for Enterprise on the GS3, for example, and beginning to position our devices in the enterprise. And then 2013 has really been about positioning Samsung and Android as a leader in the enterprise space. So now we've introduced, you may have seen in Mobile World Congress, introduced Knox, which is really an extension of SAFE, taking the SAFE to a much greater level, employing things like Android SE, creating a dual persona containerization for your applications, and really creating what we believe is a holistic enterprise mobility solution. Now that we've got that, we're branching out, establishing relationships with companies like Genband and Citrix to provide a true UC experience on those devices. So I agree, it's a really exciting time right now, and the demand we're seeing for UC capabilities is just taking off.
Joe?
Eric, Joe Martin with Sprint, and I think I remember all of the questions you asked. And I think our answer would be yes to all of those. So yes, we are embracing managed mobility across multi-carrier with our Sprint Complete Collaboration platform, leveraging Cisco HCS. Certainly yes to MDM, companies such as AirWatch. We think that that's basic. It's sort of a rodeo without fences right now. So multi-carrier, at least 2 levels of management, and we're planning for them to bring anything they want to bring. And then in our premium seat, we'll support clients on 10 devices for that seat. So we're anticipating with our offer that there'll be a lot of devices of all forms.
Okay. Chris?
Sure. So Chris Kemmer, Verizon. So I think a couple things to the gentleman earlier. When we look at it being driven by the end user, that end user is a consumer, which means simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. So I think as we look at what end users are going to be adopting, they're going to be adopting something that is seamless. I think from a mobile UC perspective, we're seeing a lag in voice because at the end of the day, people hit the green button. What we are seeing, though, is an uptick on things like video, IM and presence, net conferencing, some of those applications proliferating to mobile devices, things like that. But I still think we see a lag in what we called 5 years ago fixed mobile convergence, where you had a phone number and things like that.
Okay.
Well, Eric, I'm just happy to be here with such a diverse panel. We really are drawn far and wide here. But I had a question of each of our panelists to get started. And I'll start with John Cash from BlackBerry. I had the chance to catch the BlackBerry Experience Forum, I think it was called, the roadshow on the BB10 launch. Yep. It was quite impressive. The BlackBerry Balance capability. I see MVS is still in the mix. They lost the name Fusion and went back to Bez 10. Bez, yep. Is BlackBerry, I know when working with Microsoft, you guys developed your own client that addresses Microsoft. What's BlackBerry's position coming in that? Are you going to cooperate with the other UC suppliers, or really produce your own UC platform on its own that works in conjunction with anyone's PBX?
Well, we've always cooperated, frankly, with all the providers. Microsoft in particular has always been a very cooperative relationship, and that's going to continue. We're going, basically, we want to support the full gamut of Microsoft solutions on our devices. Now, the look and feel of it sometimes may be BlackBerry-like, and sometimes it may be Microsoft-like, and we're just going to figure out which particular solutions work best. The great news is that it's very easy with the BlackBerry 10 platform for a partner like Microsoft to take what we've provided and create just a great user experience on that. And just one thing I'll highlight there is, I mentioned it earlier, our hub. So hub is the place where all of your communications flow with the native BlackBerry apps. We've also made an API available for anyone to write apps into that hub, so it can become the central unified place for SharePoint updates, or for really any other communication that you want to flow there. And that's really that's the paradigm that we see that most end users really want to utilize. So that's why we're excited about that. So I guess in answer to your question, we're going to continue to do what we do with MVS where it makes sense, and we're also going to, make our partnerships much more robust with folks like Microsoft and others.
Well, since we're in the device category, Dave, it looks like Samsung is getting serious to going after the enterprise space. Well, first I should mention congratulations for the S4 launch last week, the big event in Rockefeller Center. But you've been busy all over between relationships with MDM suppliers, your own SAFE program, GenBit. How are all the pieces coming together? What's going on with Samsung to big news for an enterprise customer now?
Sure. So our strategy has been very much a collaborative strategy from the beginning around the enterprise, identifying it started with key horizontal partners that we needed to make Android and Samsung's version of Android more secure and more enterprise friendly. So that's where all the MDM relationships have come through. More recently, we're beginning to focus heavily on the vertical spaces. Now that we have a very strong platform with SAFE and Knox, which we'll be bringing to market in Q2, it really paves the way for us to focus on those vertical solutions. So we're spending a lot of time with vertical partners, whether it's in the UC space, whether it's in healthcare, education, government. 2 years ago, we really didn't have a voice or a seat at the table in the government space, and now government is wide open to us as an opportunity with the things that we're doing to defragment Android and make it secure, supporting things like FIPS and SRG. So that's really been our focus now, is focusing on those vertical markets and establishing ourselves in that space.
Great. Scott, this is Microsoft's second year participating in our summit. Prior to that, my good friend BJ Habercorn, I thought, was trying to avoid me. But it seems like, well, certainly with the new release of Link, and I understand a new set of mobile clients for that, you guys are how big an element is mobility when you're talking about Link today?
Sure, I'd be happy to speak to that, and I'll let you know that BJ's with us in spirit. He had a family issue today, or otherwise he would be sitting right here in this chair. But I know he's with us, and the excitement that we see in this space, we've just done a new release, which I'm sure you'll be in for Derek Burney's keynote tomorrow. Don't miss it, because he actually has a great way for you to really experience what I mentioned earlier, which is each of these platforms having the Link client experience optimized for that platform. The buttons are where you expect them. Sometimes they're at the top, sometimes they're at the bottom, but if you've used that device all day for other stuff, we want to make it as consistent as we can. Likewise, adding video, adding VoIP support, the voice over Wi-Fi capabilities, and intelligence in the phone, switches to say, only do a video call if I'm using Wi-Fi capabilities. These are the types of things that we were getting from that consumer and user feedback. And combining that with the experience in Skype, that's been a fantastic thing to see what are the real far-end consumers that have no concept of the back-end want versus what do the enterprise people want. And we're delighted to see the re-energizing in BlackBerry and OS 10. Absolutely welcome continued partnerships and developing in all of these environments. But we are seeing this actually, as I mentioned earlier, driving enterprise deployments because they want that one-click join from their calendar if they can get it. That Windows 8 experience on the Windows Phone 8, being able to just touch it, you're in the meeting, you're there, it calls you, there's no PIN codes and all of that. You know how simple that's been for a few years. We just revved it up based on the feedback that we got to say, how do you make that even slicker and more entertaining, but also more functional?
Right. Now, Jeff, we have a lot of talk about MDM on the mobility track this Enterprise Connect, and I'm sure you guys have been busy. Big question I had, well, one is how do you see the overall market for MDM progressing, and the mobility customers that you're talking to, are they talking about mobile UC?
They are. Mobile UC is always part of those conversations. I would say one of the biggest trends right now with MDM is I think we've kind of gotten past the food and shelter, if you will, of traditional MDM, of putting a passcode on a device and pushing down email. Those are things that have been possible now for a number of years. I think what we're seeing is more integration in with the enterprise, right? So setting up tablets, setting up phones, whatever the device may be, it's integrating in with the back-end infrastructure, integrating in with your authoritative repositories for user information, integrating in with your certificate authorities to push down certificates for authentication. It's really, I think, diving deeper into that integration in with the enterprise. We're seeing that more and more. We're also seeing a big uptick in content management. So how do you get content down, whether it's content that exists in a SharePoint repository, down to those devices securely and in a way that's easy to access. Also, those documents that you might have in a network file share repository, how do you grant access or provide access to all of that information from a mobile device, making sure that that information can't get off that from a DLP perspective. So we're seeing a big uptick around sort of integration in with the enterprise along with content management. Application management's becoming larger and larger. App wrapping, starting to add more and more controls, more consistent controls, single sign-on around those internal applications that are being generated within an enterprise. So really, an awful lot. And then, of course, from the mobile UC perspective, we're seeing, I think the trend that we've already heard so far is end users want that native experience of the device, right? And so I think one thing that AirWatch has always done well is they've maintained that native experience of whatever device it may be. We're device, and carrier agnostic, so we cater to all of the different technologies that are out there. But most importantly, it's securing and managing the device at the native level, which is so important, because once you start getting mobile UC involved, shoot, when I get a voicemail, I get an email followed by it's transcribed into a text message, and text messages aren't necessarily something that's traditionally managed or secured on the device through some MDM. So you've got to make sure that the device itself is protected and encrypted. So once you start getting that content in so many different ways, you've got to make sure you're protecting everything.
Moving on, Joe. I assume the big news at Sprint this year is the investment from SoftBank.
Who's that?
SoftBank, the short guy that was standing next to Dan Hesse. What is that going to mean for Sprint going forward, particularly with products like complete collaboration?
Well, I think in a word, more, or bigger, or better. We're going to have more joint customers to sell to. Sitting next to the likes of my colleague here, we like the stature that we'll have in terms of our spectrum position with the acquisition of Clearwire, and the overall scale that the consummated transaction brings. So we're looking forward to that. And so from a Sprint Complete collaboration perspective, we think we're going to have more customers to sell to in more places.
Right. Well, Chris, in terms of a product line, Verizon seems to have about the broadest, with solutions for UC and IP telephony from a number of different platforms, also in conjunction with the largest U.S. mobile operator. When do we expect to see things start coming together for a richer set of UC offerings based on the synergies you should be having here?
Sure. So I'll start a little bit with where we are today. And today, the reality is most of the UC experience is over the top. So it's over the top clients, net conferencing, video, voice, whatever it is. I would say over the last 6-8 months, the thing we're seeing a significant growth in is video. So we're seeing video become pervasive. More and more video being pushed to things like tablets and stuff like that, especially in different verticals. The key to that is the interoperability. So any device, any client, non-registered, ad hoc type experience. So that's been a focus over the last 6 to 8 months. I think what you'll see over the next, again, 6 to 8 months, year, is network integration. So at least being able to integrate between the wireline and wireless network to improve costs, both on our side, so routing calls across out to the PSTN, things like that, but then also extending that savings to our customers. And then beyond that, we'll get into a lot of application level integration. So you'll see things like our HCS platform, or based on the Cisco service offering, so our UCaaS service integrated into the mobile network. So you'll start some fixed mobile convergence coming out of that. And then beyond that, things like RCS. So consumer-based experiences integrated into the enterprise experience. So and the key to that is federation. The end user can't think about it. So we need to be able to enable things like RCS federation to things like WebRTC, so that you have that interoperability between these different applications, FaceTime, stuff like that.
Yeah. RCS is one of the topics that came up in our mobility session this morning. Are you hearing? Is anyone hearing a lot about RCS outside of the carrier community? Is this John or Dave? For those who haven't seen it, basically it's the idea of providing UC-type capabilities in a mobile operator network. Things like presence-enabled directory, geolocation swapping. Is this becoming a big topic?
Yeah, I'd say certainly we start to hear about it more and more. I'd say, though, maybe returning to the previous topic a little bit, some of the things, more common challenges that customers have, and by the way, I agree with everything Jeff said around MDM. A couple of the other big challenges, though, I would say that, that maybe you didn't mention, were really the seamless separation of work and personal. And of course, that's one of the big things around that we've done with BlackBerry 10. And the other big challenge, I would say, is connectivity, seamless connectivity between work and personal, and getting to your work information seamlessly. And that's a big part of what we're doing with BES 10 moving forward. Folks will have a great opportunity to discover that later.
Michael, actually, can I address a question? I want to ask Joe and Chris. One of the surveys that we reported on recently, and forgetting which research house did it, they asked people two questions. How do you currently connect to audio conferences? Thinking about people who want to connect to audio. Yeah, how do you currently do it? And a sliver, 3 or 4% said via cell phone. And they say, what's your preferred way? And then they asked, if voice quality were not an issue, what would your preferred way be? And that shot up to the #1 answer that people wanted to do it. What are you guys doing with your networks to make that happen, to make that a better experience?
So I'll take a stab at this one first. So first, one of the keys to, especially on a mobile device, to improving the quality, so once you get away from TDM, so CDMA, things like that, moving to VoLTE, will start to allow you to prioritize voice traffic. And why that's important, when you think of a conferencing experience, especially more on a tablet, you're going to see it more integrated into things like net conferencing. So you won't necessarily have one without the other, even if you're not using the net conferencing. To make that a reality on something like a tablet, you need to be able to terminate the voice and data. on the same device over the IP network. So as far as what we're doing to improve that quality is things like VoLTE. So making sure that that voice, that video, that net conferencing collaboration is given the fast lane, if you will, within the network.
Are you giving them also any sort of wideband codec treatment or anything like that?
Yep. So HD codecs, things like that. And now the key to that, again, is going to be on the device itself.
Okay.
Well, aside from the futures around the rich communications suite or VoLTE and the like, if this is more about what we can do today, on our SEC platform we have an IP-enabled audio conferencing. It's very much ingrained into the mobile experience such that if someone is not taking advantage of our unlimited services for voice and data, it does not declinate minutes. It reduces the number of trunks that are required because we use an intermedia subsystem to actually link the networks, as Chris was referring to. And in doing so, we're actually able to allow things to stay on the mobile network that are communicating with the PBX without using all of the facilities and infrastructure. So with regard to audio conferencing, whether they're at their desk or whether they're out untethered, they'll have a great experience with our offering.
Michael, do you have a kind of a wrap-up or?
No, only to say that we have quite a number of sessions in the mobility track, more than we've ever had before. One immediately following this on mobile devices, and a few of our panelists will be there. Tablet Tactics tomorrow afternoon. Robert Harris is doing a session on user case studies with BYOD. Erlen Wazar on the next morning talking about MDM. So quite a series, and we hope to see you at most of them.
Yeah, and most, all these companies will be on other sessions too, so you'll be getting perspectives from them throughout the week, and of course, check them out on the show floor also. I want to thank all you gentlemen, and we'll set aside some more time at future shows because there's a ton more to talk about, and we can certainly go much longer. But thanks for your time, and thank all of you folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.